button, you know?
That's press any button to continue. Thanks.
So the cool story about Marek's project is that last year in the UX Unconference in Toronto, Alex from the Ethereum Foundation, Alex van der Zande, or however you pronounce it.
I think that's pretty close.
He was sharing a lot of concepts of how does he envision onboarding or interactions within dApps and all kind of those concepts. And because it was shot on video, like we're doing right now, Marek saw it. I don't know where actually.
Yeah, so Alex shared it on Twitter.
All right, so it was shared on Twitter, and then basically Marek reached out and they got a grant for that, and they've been working on the universal logins for the last however many months.
I think close to 9 months now.
Cool, yeah, so basically, and it was very, very small forum, just a little bit less small than today, but very small forum as well, and nevertheless the quality of the interaction is speaking, so.
Wonderful,
cheers.
thanks. Yeah, do I speak to this? Or okay, this is for recording and this is for hearing here. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here. Who did see my presentation on that I did yesterday? Okay, 2 people. Okay, so I will mostly go with the flow, maybe put emphasis on different points, but you know, feel free to interrupt me and ask any questions as we go. So 2 years ago, I started an agency called ETHWORKS. We're like one-stop shop for the blockchain project, for any blockchain project. When I say blockchain, 90% of the time I mean Ethereum. We do everything, starting with like concepts and design all the way through building the app, smart contracts, custom blockchains, bridges, and most recently we also get involved with formal verification. We've been lucky to work with some great brands from our space and with some noble brands outside our space. And as we design all those applications and we try to build all those applications, a couple of problems, but one shows up very often, which is usability. Usability is hard, and a lot of people say usability of Ethereum is hard, but they often mean different things. So we try to be very precise. I think it's important to be very precise about the problem you try to solve, to actually solve it well. So there are 4 things. When people say usability of Ethereum sites, it's probably one of the 4 things they mean. One, onboarding is hard. Secure fund storage is hard is another problem. Requirement to have Web3 enabled browser is a problem. And paying tokens, fees for token transactions is hard. So onboarding, we all know the story. Very popular. There's very popular tutorial on the web called 17 steps to buy Ethereum. This is not a joke, that really exists. That's already like been on many presentations. I stole it from someone. I wouldn't be able to tell you anymore from whom. But you know, it's like choose your wallet, download, install, backup key, store the backup safely. You know, carpet drawer is the right place to do that. You need to open your wallet, copy paste the address for later. Choose the exchange, register, set up two-factor authentication. It's super important to be secure. Verify account, go all the way through KYC, deposit money, buy Ether, confirm with two-factor authentication because we set up it just a couple steps earlier. Well, then you can send money to your wallet finally, but not before you confirm. And then you can finally go to Etherscan and keep refreshing to see if the transaction went through. And then you can go to CryptoKitties or any other application you would like to use. So that's quite a lot. Fund security, so I think there's nothing new for you guys here. Like there's a bunch of UX studies. I think Status is like the leading company that they like for a year they tested different options. How about if we force users to back up seed phrase at the beginning? How about if we notch them later? How about if we hide it in settings? How about if you show them notifications? So study all over like something between 1% and 3%. I might be wrong on the numbers, but like very small percent of people actually would back up their seed phrases. You know, we have hardware wallets, Multi-Sigs, we all know they only solve the part of the problem, and you know, it's hard to start Ethereum experience with, hey, let's buy a hardware wallet, wait for 3 weeks for it to come, and then you can start playing around. I think one of the problems that is often skipped, and there is more and more Web3 enabled browsers, so it seems like the problem doesn't exist. But the reality is we live in this bubble, like we already know Ethereum, we already use Ethereum, but if anyone would like to build a startup based on Ethereum for non-Ethereum users, like starting with, yeah, just install this plugin or just install this browser, it's the difference between like having close to zero conversion and non-working business versus, you know, actually onboarding users, getting traction and so on, right? And I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was introducing the whole idea to a developer who was not that fluent with Ethereum, but I kind of heard of it. And like, so let me show you how you can do it with MetaMask. And he's like, what's that? It's a browser plugin. Browser plugin? Who uses that? Like, it's like normal users don't even use browser plugins. That's something it's easy to forget where you're tech savvy, when you work for an IT company. I mean, that all adds to steep entrance curve, and that basically converts to, or that basically kills all the conversions. And last but not least, there is a token fees problem. So we had a customer, and this is real story, and they get a lot of traction. They raise a big ICO. They start, you know, moving things around, and like really, literally, they gave their tokens to thousands of users that would do a bunch of things with the tokens. And the most common question on customer they would have like every single day is, hi, I have that and that amount of tokens, but it says insufficient funds. Because we all know, well, we need to pay fees in Ether. Okay, the message could definitely be more readable, but it doesn't solve the problem. And that's not only usability problem, that's also a huge business problem, because if you think about it, like, why do I need to create crypto economy in my token if I can create it with Ethers? If I need Ether anyway, why don't just build it around Ether? So what we would like it to be? We would like it to be a little bit more like Web 2.0. If you think about Web 2.0, and that's what we're trying to do, we try to bring this Web 2.0 experience built from those primitives and elements that we have you know, in Web 3.0 and Ethereum ecosystem. So in Web 2.0, all you will have to do is register, maybe confirm email, maybe there is one more step here. Deposit money, and all you would have to do is type in your credit card number, boom, you can start using the service. It's like any other software as a service. That's how it works, right? Something like that. Now that of course is well, that of course solves all the piece of the puzzle. Another piece of the puzzle would be, how can I make my funds more secure? So what we could do is like allow having access to my funds from multiple devices. And again, that could be something super simple. What you can do, you can connect, you can, I think I skip a little bit. So the idea is we pick a name, we put the credit card number, boom, off we go, we're onboarded. And then what we can do is we can connect more devices by using the same name, configure with the other devices that we already connected, and boom, we can start using the same service, the same balances with another application, another device, same application, different device. So, and that's kind of how universal login works. So this is a quick demo I'm going to show you in a moment. So the first application is the application we built last year for the DevCon. It was like a technical prototype. And now we started building a wallet with new onboarding flow. It's kind of halfway through. So we can expose all the flows. Yeah, you can show all the flows I would like to show, but hopefully we are aiming to be done with those flows and ready to go to production early this summer. There's still a lot of work to do, so keep your fingers crossed. But I wanted to show you, so that's a click application. Click application allows you to click, and it registers the click on the blockchain. So that's gonna work on dev environments. It's gonna be faster than it would be on the testnet or mainnet, but there is a testnet version 2. Boom, I already registered and I'm in the application. Now I'm going to the wallet, the one I explained about a moment ago. Okay, the notification appears, I accept, and here we go. And what you can see, maybe I can pause it, like initially there was 100 Ether on the account, and it's still 100 Ether on the account, and it was 100 clicks, but it's 97 because the contract paid for the deployment of itself. So now when but that's not what I wanted to do. It's pretty tricky. Okay. For some reason I cannot scroll, so we have to wait all the way through, but we're almost there. Connecting one more time, and off we go. Good. And actually, the 2 clicks were the cost for connecting the other device, and then we can do a transfer. Transfer can be done with clicks, can be done with Ether. If it would be done with clicks, again, the fee would be done with clicks, but we did it in Ether, so the fee was paid in Ether. So, and we're working on a credit card flow. There's now 3 providers either allowing you to on-ramp users with credit card or being very close to actually provide that service. It's a little bit unclear which one of that is, depending if you read the information on the website or documentation, but we work with all of them, trying to get it to production as fast as possible. So, getting back to the problems. Token fees, checked. We pay everything with Click token when we're doing anything in the Click application. Ethereum enabled browser, where we didn't have any MetaMask, any Opera, any Brave, anything like that. Fund security. The whole demo took like a minute, and we already have 2 different devices. Of course, in the future, we imagine we'd like to have many more devices connected. Maybe there are different possibilities, like we all know social recovery ideas and so on and so forth. My favorite is you add an email and password. You can store one of the keys on the server, hidden behind the password, so it's encrypted on the server, and you can recovery with trusted third party, which is pretty cool. And on top of that, you can do like even email confirmations, so you can confirm transaction with email, which is again something that is so familiar with Web 2.0 reality. And onboarding, as explained, we're working on it. I think it's going to be ready in a couple months. Good. So how does it work under the hood? Well, there are 3 major technological concepts. So first one is personal multi-sig wallet. So the idea, all of the funds are not stored on any of the devices, but are stored on a smart contract deployed to Ethereum. And we use meta transaction to trigger normal Ethereum transactions from the wallet. So none of those keys on any of the devices need any Ether balance. And the universal login idea itself is that we put ENS name in top of the wallet, and you can use that name to connect to a number of different devices and applications. So here is an example. Imagine we have a contract wallet. Let's say there is a key in the application, could be CryptoKitties, MakerDAO, Dharma, you name it. There are 2 keys stored in native applications. Let's say it doesn't even need to be a wallet. It could be like a 2-factor authentication application, something really simple. And let's say 1 key for recovery could be stored in trusted third party, as explained in a moment. And we would like to make a transfer from contract wallet to some other wallet over there. So what we need, and what is a part of the ecosystem, is a relayer. So what happens, web application triggers, I click in the application and creates a meta transaction and sends it to relayer. Relayer takes this transaction, wraps it into normal Ethereum transaction, puts Ether on it, and relays it to the blockchain. So it makes a call on the method on the contract wallet. What wallet does is, it executes the transfer. Could be Ether transfer, token transfer, could be a call on the contract, and then contract does a refund to the relayer, so the relayer don't need to pay for it, but the contract wallet do. And again, the refund may be in either. Refund could be in ERC, can be in ERC20 token, could be even ERC7 to 1. Relayer and contract wallet have such a functionality.
Could I just ask, like,
Absolutely.
has the fee, like, has the gas fee sort of costed in that?
So the question is about gas fees, yes?
Yeah, so the relayer is paying the gas fees and then getting,
and then he gets a refund. Yeah. So refund problem is one of the most interesting technical problems under the hood, and there are different strategies you can start with. So the simplest strategy would be the wallet pays back a fixed amount of Ether or fixed amount of token, and that's actually what most of those startups do that do meta transactions. It's just a fixed amount. If you're transferring stuff with our services, you're probably paying me in some way, so I will take a little bit of that risk. But most likely I will still have a, so for example, Dharma has now a solution that basically pays for the user. Burner Wallet, on the other hand, I believe there is a fixed refund that always happens for each transaction, which is fairly easy for Burner Wallet because you only transfer native or token, so it's roughly the same price depending, if it's a transaction to a zero balance account or from zero balance account. So there are like 8 cases, and each is like maybe 20% of each other. Another interesting idea is to make it more general and say, how about we calculate how much gas it's going to cost and make a transaction refund depending on that. And that brings a lot of problems because one of the most interesting ones is what I call big data attack, which happens like that. It's a really good one. So imagine I'm doing a transaction, something quite expensive, could be a contract deployment, let's say a transaction that costs 4 million gas, could be just a call on a function that has a lot of data, could be just normal transaction with just data that is useless. And I put it to relayer. So what relayer does before it relays the transaction, it checks the status of the blockchain. And in particular, it can check if contract has enough money to execute transaction, can dry run transaction locally and see how much it's going to cost, and it can check if the transaction will be successful. And he checks all of that, everything is fine, contract has a lot of money, it's going to be successful, everything's fine. Then he creates a transaction. And then what I do is I front run that transaction and empty the wallet. Okay? And then the relayer had to pay for the data. And the funny thing is, the first thing in the execution of the contract, the first check we can do is we can check, hey, do I still have enough money to execute the transaction? And stop the transaction, fail the transaction right there, right? But the problem is, I already paid for the data, which cost me 4 million, which might be like 100 bucks, right? So I can basically just set up a couple of transactions and drain the relayer account totally. So that's one of the most interesting problems we have. Like, I don't think it's solvable in general case, but there are some solutions that could be built that basically mitigate this problem. So for example, gas station network is not solving that problem at all. It basically says this is the application owner problem, right? So you can whitelist those guys, you can blacklist those guys, you can KYC those guys, and so on. So our belief is, because it's all about easy onboarding, we have to find a way to solve it along the way, and it's further down the road on our roadmap.
So maybe just sending a preliminary locking transaction.
I mean, this way or the other, you have to have some kind of locking, yes. Yeah. But you don't want to make a cost higher. You don't want to slow down. If the relayer is not responding, you want to be able to go to another one. So it's a little bit tricky. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's a very good question, I have to say. Good. So, so technological stack is like, it's a top-bottom solution. So there are smart contracts. There is an open source layer that we built. There's a JavaScript SDK that you can hook up into your application instead of Web3.js. We also started building a wallet, not trying to compete with all the 1,000 other wallets on the market. It's more like a reference implementation showing how it could be done. It's all MIT licensed, so anybody can start using it at any point, do other things. We pick a technological stack that is, we use Ethers on the bottom, which is Web3.js alternative that works. We build a testing framework called Waffle on top of that. So it was difficult to write. It's kind of still difficult to write tests for smart contracts. And we're doing formal verification of the contracts. I think we're like maybe 20% through, so there is still more to go. But we're working with the Maker DAO formal verification team with their technology that is called ACT, and that compiles to a language called K, which is framework for formal verification. And it's all in in our monorepo hook up to continuous integration, so we can go there, see the proofs, and see how it works. So that's the cool thing about ACT in particular is like if you spend an hour learning how it works, you kind of can start reading those proofs. They're like readable, which is unlike, let's say, K, that is like you need to spend a month to. It's a very low-level language. And I'm glad to mention that, well, our team has grew. We have now 5 people. That is three guys working full-time on it, plus me and Alex, spending more and more part of our time on it. We have a lot of contributors from around the world, a lot of people who would like to integrate it and can't wait for us to finish, so they're helping us out. We are a grantee of ETHWORKS and ECF. And in general, we've seen a lot of interest along the way. Lots of people forking, building their own stuff, and we have like longer and longer queue of startups, well, about to start piloting and building things with universal login. Good. Who has technical background? Who can code here? Okay. So more than a half. So I'm gonna try to go really quick through. So that's enough to deploy a wallet and execute transaction. Well, we need to we need to install SDK, require it. That's creating a new provider. This particular provider, this is on the on our website, so you don't need to do photos. So universal login, we create universal login. We connect to Rinkaby. So there's 2 arguments. One is for the relayer, and one for writing, and one is for reading to, in this case, Infura. Create a wallet, 1 command, put your nick here, and then there's already a test domain you can use. And we're creating a message. Message is basically almost the same as Ethereum transaction. There is from. Notice that from is contract address because we're sending from the wallet, so it's a little bit unintuitive. To data, value, gas price, gas limit, and gas token, which is optional field, which allows you to define with which token you would like to pay a fee. Of course, Relayer has to support this particular token so that it's successful. And then you execute transaction with your local private key, right? The one that we get when we were creating, right? So this private key is different on every device. Contract address is the same on every device. Boom, that's all. Cool thing about this is we spent like last year we tried to, like a couple of startups tried to build things with that and they failed. So we built a whole development environment. So if you can do it on a test network, but if you want to do it locally, there is a command that will set up local blockchain like Ganache. We'll deploy ENS to it. We'll create a couple of testing domains. And there is also a relayer. There are also relayers that will automatically grant you Ether and tokens, so you can just, start creating wallets and doing things with that. And we saw the demo was working on the relayer that would automatically grant Ether and tokens, so you can just run it, boom, change a couple lines, and off you go. So that's, I mean, that's way faster than if you would like to do it with Web3.js. Good. How much time do I have?
Another, actually 15 minutes if you want, because food is on its way.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know if I have enough slides. We can do some coding, or we can, I don't know. Anyway, so universallogin.io. You can go to the website to learn more. You can go to our GitHub. There's a lot of going on there. In particular, we are huge fans of continuous delivery. So everything is automated, tested. You can run it one command, the way you like it. And we also have fairly good documentation, but we're looking forward to your feedback about it. And you know, if you would like to get updates or read mans or get into philosophy, useless philosophy, then feel free to follow me on Twitter. Do you have any questions so far? Questions. Everything is well explained, no questions almost. Mm-hmm.
We kind of think about all this stuff from the point of view of using Ethereum dApps.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been this thought that once we've got like the ability to handle keys in the browser, we could be doing regular logins a lot more with crypto stuff, right? And then that ties into sort of Ethereum identity and stuff. Is that kind of something you're thinking about, or are you just thinking about Ethereum? Are we gonna, can we just change the whole way logins work on the internet? It seems wrong.
No. So I'm not sure if I'm looking that far, but if you ask Alex, he would probably tell you, you know, definitely we can do better than, you know, everybody done so far. For me, it's really, the really cool thing about those flows is at no point you really have to tell the user that there is Ethereum under the hood. And if you can onboard them with DAI, for example, you don't even need to tell them it's DAI. You just say, your balance is this and this amount of USD, right? And that's the best thing about it. And then you can mix it with login and password still, or even like deliver, you know, ENS name from the login or from email. So yeah, I mean, about this particular flow where there's no user and password, the cool thing is there is no user and password, right? Like we always thought we need user and password, and then that Slack came along, and like when you want to log in, you just log in with email, right? So maybe there might be some potential there, definitely. Okay, another question.
I wanted to ask how closely you guys are working with the people building the relayer software, if at all, because this part, I think the project is excellent, it's really cool. This part of the process makes a ton of sense, but then there's obviously still the asynchronicity of performing an action and then waiting for the meta transaction to be relayed by a relayer and take your money. So there's still a bit of wobbly downtime there where our users like what's going on, and they're sort of they're lost. How much thought have you given to that part of the process?
Again, very good question. So I think, and that touches a couple of different aspects. So I don't think we're going to be able to get rid of delay on the main network. It seems that like second layer solutions, side chains, state channels, Plasma, I think it's getting closer and closer to, you know, production.
For clarity, I wasn't speaking about removing that delay. I was kind of more trying to understand how you guys are thinking about presenting that to the user.
Yeah. So I don't think there is like so like three parts, right? One is there. I mean, we don't propose any significant innovation over what is there, like do a nice animation or something, or we also have we created this pattern of having like for some other projects having like a widget at the top, like kind of notifications things when you can see the state of transactions, If you, for example, on the exchange and you want to do a couple of transactions that will get queued and so on. So I don't think there is a significant improvement that with this particular solution you can do over that. The other thing is, I believe, as of today, we are focused on like building it on mainnet or any particular network that anyone would like to use it. But the future seems to be like multi-network, level 2 solution kind of mixture. So, and in particular, multi-sig wallets can support state channels very well. And definitely you can, with counterfactual deployment, you can actually have the same wallet with the same address, with the same ENS name on a couple different networks. So that's also pretty cool, and you can then use bridges to move things around. So that's definitely doable, and something way further on the roadmap, but still on the roadmap. So there's the second, I think, aspect. You also ask about relayer networks, right? So I mean, relayer doesn't really slow down or anything, because like the HTTP connection is like sub-second, and then mining is tens of seconds. We're building our own relayer. Unfortunately, we would love to use something ready, because well, that's a lot of work. But there is no solution as of today that we could just use, take and use. So we took a closer look at gas station network, and unfortunately they don't support multi-signature, and they're vulnerable to big data attack, and there's nothing on the roadmap that says we would like to handle that better. And those are like big things for us, important things for us, so that basically makes us we need to build our own relay solution, maybe eventually our own relay network. Okay, is that a question?
Yeah.
Okay, another question coming.
So it's about relayer 2. But before I ask that, thank you very much for putting the screenshot in the size, such a size that the fonts in the screenshot are the same as fonts outside. Because very few people actually manage
Okay.
it.
So all the credit goes to our design team, though.
Okay. So my question is, who do you envision are the relayers? Do you think they are the wallet providers, or do you think they are the specific service that provided by token? Therefore, one wallet might connect to multiple relayers depending on the token they use.
Absolutely. Again, all the good questions today. I like it. So definitely would like a user to be able to connect to different relayers. Otherwise, the solution is not fully permissionless. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. Who would run? I mean, anyone who wants to really could be a wallet provider, definitely. Could be open public relayers, could be closed relayers, could be per token relayers. Heavily depends. I think interesting direction is relayer network, kind of similar to what gas station network is doing, but that's further down the road. And in particular, the way we like to think is we have a problem here right now that we would like to solve, which is, well, onboarding is super hard and all the other things, and we would like to build a production-ready solution with relayer. And then we figure out how we scale it, and we figure out how we get attraction, see people using it, and then go further. And especially with universal login, what we already learned is every time you solve a problem, you get 2 small problems. So you solve the problem, and you have now 4 teeny tiny problems. So what you end up with is having like a backlog of 100 little annoying problems that you have to solve. And so you really have to prioritize, and you really have to figure out. And there's a lot of things we learned last year when we started with completely different assumptions. We started with the idea that it's going to be strongly attached to identity problem, which is completely different, and now it's completely out of the picture. There are some other people working on very nice solutions that could be connected. We started with the idea we're going to create a standard, which is completely out of the pictures for now, because we created a standard, start promoting it, and then changed it so many times because there were so many new things that we discovered along the way. So our current focus is get to production as fast as possible with minimal set of features, tested with your users, traction, growth, and then we keep solving those problems. And there are create paths like for relayer that we can use, which is relayer network, which is closed relayers, open relayers. It's hard to pick the right one without real life user feedback. Okay, one more question coming.
Oh, I have two, but I think one.
Two is fine as well.
First question is how are private keys generated and stored on the user devices?
Oh, another nice. No stupid questions whatsoever. Okay, no. So this is again a good question. So it's really up to. Did the food come or something?
No, actually.
Yeah.
So we'll have another talk before the book because it's just
Okay.
delayed a little bit.
Okay then. So I will reply to that question and then we can close. So keys. So SDK doesn't define when the keys are stored. So that gives you three possibilities. One is if it's a native app, then we would like to store it as securely as possible on the device. Meaning, if you're on iOS, you can use Face ID or Touch ID, or in general, keychain. If you're on Android, I believe there is a similar solution. If you're on the laptop, it might or might not be available, but in general, the most secure way possible. It's get a little bit more tricky when it comes to applications like CryptoKitties or Dharma Maker, whatever. When you imagine you logging in with universal login, and then the question is where the key is stored. So one not very secure answer would be just in offline storage, and it could be surprisingly good because initially when you log for the first time, you probably don't have a lot of funds. And then eventually, once you have a little bit more funds, it asks you to install native application on the mobile, and then you need to confirm with your mobile. So that would be pretty fine place to store. Another question could be stored actually on the app server, and could be encrypted or not, with the same premise. Because I even talked with Nadav the other time about Dharma and wallets, and he says, why can't you just have a wallet that will allow you to spend Dharma $100 every day or every week? Just trust Dharma for those $100, right? And it's like, that's what we do all the time. Like, we would get crazy if we would try to trust no one, right? And confirm every single click, every single action. So if we really want users to start using those, DeFi and eventually all the different applications, then you have this minimal level of trust that you would like to give them, right? But then if it's 1,000, 10,000, okay, sure, then I need a confirmation on too. And another thing that Nadav says that really stick into my mind is like, we are, as a community, we are like, the security first thing that's slowing us down so much. And he said, Dharma is Silicon Valley based, VC funded, different kind of mindset, and they're like, let people start losing money, and then we solve this problem. That means we already succeeded in something, right? So that's move fast and break things. That's kind of attitude that we could have we should use more commonly, even when it comes to creating wallet. In a sense, we should have a big warning and don't let users put hundreds of thousands of dollars to unstable wallets. But let's just iterate faster and make it more user-driven, because now it's all security-driven, and that just slows the innovations way down.
You mentioned something. You said trusting Dharma with $100. Is each address in the multi-sig an equal member, so like full access to the funds, or do you define limitations per address?
So that's another good question. So currently it is. We start with the premise it's going to be different levels. And we want to go back to that, but as for now, we're focusing on something really simple that we deliver to production, like something that you wouldn't store more than a couple $100 on, maybe tens of dollars, and then eventually we want to go back to the whole ACL thing that Dan from MetaMask was talking about. But as of today, we think it's still like premature before we get real life testing on those key onboarding kind of things. Good. Thank you very much.
Just passing on the mic to